afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bunkaya Ghana, and I represent Greenish Trustees Limited, working in partnership with the Immigrant Investor Group Incorporated, hereinafter called IIG. On behalf of the partnership, I welcome you to this webinar titled The Canada Startup Visa Program. A common saying that you either innovate or die can never be overemphasized. Innovation is the main reason why the human race has lasted this long. Innovation has not only assisted man to live a stress-free life, it has also helped man to continue to positively affect the human race and his environment. Today, we see and talk to family and friends miles away, pay for goods and services from the comfort of our rooms and our homes simply because some people innovated. It is in recognition of this fact that Greenish Trustees Limited is partnering with the IIG to organize this webinar on the Canada Startup Visa Program. The Canada Startup Visa Program, otherwise called the Canada SUV, provides opportunity for IT skills and innovative ideas to establish businesses that can compete on a global scale in Canada. If you are IT savvy, or you have innovative ideas, or would want your children or your world to start up IT-related or innovative businesses in Canada, this webinar provides you the rare opportunity to connect with private sector organizations in Canada who are ready and willing to give you the necessary guidance, the expertise, and the funding to start your business in Canada. That is the essence of this webinar. And I urge you not to miss out on the opportunity. I therefore enjoin you to pay attention to our speakers as they navigate us through the SUV program and help us to take the right decisions. Please be assured that your concerns, your observations and questions will appropriately addressed during the question and answer session. Before we start, let me first introduce the two speakers that we have today on this webinar. The first speaker is Mr. Ronnie Sharma. And let me emphasize that the two of them will be talking simultaneously. So Ronnie Sharma is the founder and managing director of Immigrant Investor Group Incorporated. He holds a Baccalaureate of Commerce degree with honors from the University of Ottawa, specializing in finance and international business. He is a highly experienced and seasoned residency and citizenship planning specialist for investment-based programs. Mr. Roddick has over 15 years of financial services and investment immigration experience, mainly with HSBC Bank Canada and various global immigration law firms. The second speaker on this program is no less person than Mr. Charles Ply. Charles Ply serves as the Global Legal Consultant for Immigration Investors Incorporated Group, International Investment Migration Programs. Charles is the founder and principal attorney of the law firm Immigration Solutions Law Group. He has over 25 years experience in immigration law, both inside government and in the private practice. He's an award-winning immigration professional, certified by the Law Society of Upper Canada as a specialist in immigration and citizenship law. Mr. Ply received his Juris Doctor degree from Osgood Law School in Toronto, Canada, and studied at the Hague Academy of International Law in the Netherlands. He's a former Canadian diplomat and overseas visa officer dual license as a lawyer in Ontario, Canada, 1985, in the USA in 1992. He's also licensed by the Law Society of Upper Canada as a foreign legal consultant, US law. He has had diplomatic postings as visa officer at the Canadian Consulate General in Detroit, the Canada High Commission in Singapore, the Canadian Embassy in Germany, and at national headquarters in Ottawa, Canada, as legal advisor in the Consular and Immigration Affairs branch. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the crop of the speakers today who are going to take us through this program. May I therefore invite the first speaker, Mr. Ronnie Sharma, to take over from me. Mr. Sharma, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ronit Sharma. Thank you, Bunkaya Ghana, for the introduction. And also, a thanks to Mr. Kayode Falowa and the Greenwich Trustees Management Team and the Nigerian British Chamber of Commerce, NBCC, for an excellent job on organizing this webinar. Good afternoon. And thank you for attending our webinar today. As mentioned, we will review with you the Startup Visa Program to Canada, which could be of interest to you and your family. If you want a simple and straightforward second residency program to Canada that will eventually lead to Canadian citizenship, then look no more. This is the #1 program at the moment for Canada investor immigration. Over to you, Charles.
Thank you very much, Ronit. And good afternoon and a warm welcome to everybody to our webinar today. Just a quick thank you also from myself to Mr. Ghana and the Greenwich Group, NBCC, for an excellent job, and in particular to Ronit, who actually put this presentation together and is a colleague of 15 years. And I just want to say his motto for IAG, integrity, expertise, trust, service, he lives it every day, and our clients are very well served. So thank you, Ronit, for that. Next slide, please. So the first slide is I've been asked to do a sort of a general introduction about Canada. And so as you may know, Canada is a G7 country with one of the best performing economies over the past decade. And we have on screen sort of a number of statements, which are all true. But I would like to, rather than sort of go through those, give you a feel for how international organizations and other bodies rate Canada globally. And so I'm just going to run through a couple to give you a flavor for where Canada stands in the world. In terms of political and civil liberties, Freedom House gives Canada one of its highest rankings, 4th overall in the world and best among all the G7 countries. In terms of the quality of Canada's democracy, we rank 5th according to the Economic Intelligence Unit. In terms of education, Canada is the most educated country on earth, with 62% of 25 to 34-year-olds holding a tertiary degree, which is much higher than the average across the OECD of 44% of those individuals. So a high level of post-secondary education in Canada and a value being placed upon it. On standard of living, studies put Canada 5th best, on healthcare, on racial equality, 2nd, on immigration, which is a foundational principle of Canada, we stand 1st. Canada has a target currently annually of 100%, rather 1% of our population in terms of new immigrants coming every year. So we're approaching 400,000 new immigrants a year to Canada. The system all across the board is geared towards welcoming new immigrants. We have a high degree of favorable opinion and feeling across Canada about the benefits of immigration. And then finally, on economic freedom, Canada is ranked as 6th in the world by Forbes magazine. So these are sort of global rankings. And I just wanted to give you a flavor a little bit about where we stand. So I'm going to move on to the next slide to give you just a general overview of the Startup Visa Program. First of all, as Ronit mentioned, this has become the premier program, not only for Canada, but very attractive globally. in terms of what other countries offer for business immigration into Canada. One of the beauties of this program is that it connects the entrepreneur, the investor, with businesses in Canada, and is targeted towards a general government policy of encouraging an innovation ecosystem, a startup ecosystem in Canada. So we have actually a fairly strong venture capital ecosystem here, but the government recognizes that this is a real job creator and is something to be encouraged. So one of the very attractive features of this program is that the government has not gotten into the business of trying to decide who the winners and losers are going to be. What they are looking for is for the applicant to have presented their idea or be matched with a business that is already supported by what's called a designated organization in Canada. So a designated organization could be an incubator, an angel group, or a venture capital group. And those have already reviewed and are supporting the business, including with an investment. So the kinds of businesses that, or the kind of things that the government is looking for in terms of the business are that the business owns a technology, that the technology enables a new or unique solution to a particular problem. The technology will provide value and a market for purchasing the technology is significant. There's a viable strategy for protecting the IP associated with the technology. So in order to attract one of these designated organizations to the business, these are the factors that are being looked at. Once the business approves it, then you move on to the next stage. So I will turn it over to you, Ronit.
Thank you, Charles. So with respect to the SUV investment requirements and program streams, as Charles has briefly mentioned, the government of Canada has appointed several designated organizations to participate with the Startup Visa program to Canada: venture capital groups, angel groups, and incubator groups. So each of these organizations have a mandate from the government to participate with this program. Our particular service offering is facilitated via the angel group stream, whereby the angel group is required to invest a minimum of 75,000 Canadian dollars into each new startup investment, along with 3 or 4 other investors, and approximately $300,000 to $350,000 is raised for the new startup. What's important from our perspective is that these are real startups that ultimately have early stage capital to launch in Canada and have the potential in succeeding in Canada. One key advantage of the SCV program is that Canadian permanent residency is not tied to the performance and is not conditional on the success of the startup. Whether the startup succeeds or not, applicants will retain their Canadian permanent residency. So I'd like to take an opportunity to go over the qualifying business ownership requirements for the Startup Visa program. With respect to the SUV qualifying business ownership requirements, the government requirement is that each individual holds 10% equity in the new startup with up to 5 people total in the group. Essentially, the angel group that we work with attract and develop international startups that they want to launch their company into Canada, with the founder of the startup also wanting to immigrate to Canada. At the moment, our founders and startups are coming from all over the world: India, Dubai, Europe, South America, Africa. The typical group consists of 1 founder who holds approximately 50% equity in the company, and then 3 to 4 investors who hold 10% equity each, and the remaining share of the startup is held by the angel group. Essentially, the investor will be an advisor to the startup and have an advisory capacity role, such as chief operating officer, chief financial officer, chief technology officer, chief marketing officer. When the applicant starts their file with us, they will be matched with a startup based on their background. And ultimately, that's how the matchmaking is done with the angel group and the investor. And the objective is for each group to be balanced in terms of the skill set. Okay, so over to you, Charles.
Sorry, I was muted. So now I'm going to move over to Startup Visa qualifying industries. If you could go to the next slide, please, Darth. Thank you. So what this page shows is not what businesses are, what sectors are required the business be in, but what are typically businesses that fall under the Startup Visa category that attract the angel investor. So you can see a very broad range, but with an emphasis on technology, innovation, IT. However, this is not an exclusive list. We've had Startup Visa approvals for innovative ideas related to agriculture, related to retail operations, that kind of thing. So it's really wide open. This is just to give you a flavor of what kind of businesses there are that are typically approved under this program. Next slide, please. So I'm going to briefly review the eligibility requirements for this particular program. So from a regulatory point of view, the government doesn't insist on any minimum or maximum investment by the applicant. However, this program, which has as its sort of main component, is the matching, finding of a qualifying innovative business, and getting the approval with the angel group, which is the key requirement for this program. You need to have that approval agreement to invest in your business by the angel group. Our fee is 350,000 Canadian dollars, including everything, which includes, of course, your investment capital and your participation in an angel group fund, in which you will use to invest in other startup businesses. So one of the things I really like about this program, I've been doing business immigration, investment-related immigration to Canada for years, is that it immediately networks you with other investors, businesses, investment groups, so that you have a network right off the bat when you start, not only supporting your own business, but also in terms of what else you might be doing in Canada besides this. So you really need to have a genuine intent to help develop the business concept or idea in conjunction with the angel group. You need to be, and this is the requirement of our angel group, and which is quite normal in sort of this venture capital or startup sector, is that you need to be what's called an accredited investor. In other words, we want investors who are not putting their entire life savings into this business, and those who have a net worth and background that is suitable for this kind of a startup investment. So we're looking for individual income of 200,000 Canadian dollars a year. Combined with spouse, it could be 300,000. So if you have less than 200,000, but combined it's totaling 300,000, that will also be acceptable. Or a net worth in terms of financial assets of $1 million Canadian dollars. Now, these are one of the nice things about this program is that there's no actual analysis of your net worth by the government. Many of the other related programs historically, including the US EB-5, which we do a lot of, look very intensively at where your money has come from, from that first dollar even. So this program does not require that. However, in terms of the angel, they do require you to make a declaration that you meet this accredited investor criteria. So it is a self-declaration on your part. Another key requirement is that you have a basic proficiency in English or French. It's called a Canadian language benchmark of 5 or greater. This is sort of a lower intermediate level of English or French. So it's not a terribly high standard, but you do have to do a language test, typically the IELTS test, to prove that you meet that basic language requirement. Of course, also for immigration purposes, there's a screening done by the government in terms of your medical, security, and criminal record background. So you cannot be inadmissible for any of those grounds. If you think you have an issue under either of those grounds, please do discuss with us, because what some people assume is a problem may not well be, or may be something that we could deal with. There's no minimum education requirement technically under the program. However, our preference is that our applicants or clients under this program have at least 2 years of post-secondary education. And finally, again, and this is one of the interesting features of this program, is that there's no experience requirement technically that the government requires. However, we do like to see business ownership or management experience. So these things that we prefer to see are important because the government does look at whether this appears to be a genuine investor or applicant. And if your background and your education level doesn't really match with what the business is, the question will be, well, why did this angel group support your business with the letter of support? So we really want to make sure that it looks genuine and that you are a capable person who's going to be able to contribute to the business as well. Okay, over to you, Ronan.
Thank you, Charles. So I'd like to take the opportunity to review the application process for the Starter Visa program to Canada. The application process is a 7-step process. Step 1, the initial payment of 40,000 Canadian dollars is required to start the application with our law firm in the Angel Group. Step 2, once the applicant is onboarded, we'll provide the applicant's CV to initiate the matchmaking with the Angel Group. And that's when the matchmaking takes place. This could take anywhere from 1 to 6 weeks. Step 3 is basically the incubation phase. And this is where the second and third payment is remitted, $275,000. So which is broken up into two payments. $60,000 is given at the time of the matchmaking, and $15,000 is done at the stage of the end of the incubation program. What's important is that the second and third payment is fully refundable should something happen with the application, and it is held in trust. Step 4, which is after the incubation program, which takes approximately 3 months, the letter of support is issued by the Angel Group. This letter of support is the key document to attach with the file. Step 5, the file and preparation and documentation collection. Step 5 is actually combined with step 1 as well. We start the immigration file in parallel with the incubation program. And step 5 is basically the file submission to Immigration Canada. And this is where we attach a letter of support with the immigration file, and the file is submitted. Currently at the moment, the approximate timeline is 14 to 18 months based on government guidelines for the total process to get to the medical and security verification stage. And this is where the last payment is issued, 35,000 Canadian, upon receiving permanent residence visa issuance. And step 7, landing and pathway to citizenship. Once the approval is obtained, the applicant's spouse and children will arrive to Canada. Everybody will get a Canadian permanent residence card, which is valid for 5 years. To maintain that permanent resident card for 5 years, each individual has to stay in Canada for 730 days out of 5 years, which is equivalent of about 4.5 months in a year to maintain it. What's unique about the Canadian immigration program also is that everybody is on a separate timeline. And now to achieve citizenship in Canada, an individual has to stay in Canada 3 years within 5 years. Okay? So basically it's a 7-step process for our application. And so with respect to some advantages, just generally speaking about the program, in my 15 years in the investor immigration field, the SUV program is the most fastest, reliable, and straightforward investor immigration program to Canada that I have personally witnessed. We facilitate the entire application process from file preparation to facilitation with the investment with the authorized government angel group, which we have a preferred exclusive relationship with. Again, the permanent residence visa is not tied to the performance of the business. It's unconditional Canadian permanent resident status. The applicant can live and the family can live anywhere in Canada. This is a federal program, except Quebec. And another advantage is that the applicant will have a 10-year membership with our angel group to do further investments. And part of the $350,000 package, a portion of that is allocated to the individual. They'll become a member of the angel group and be able to invest in other startups as well. And basically, Canada offers a variety of advantages, include great quality of life, quality universal education, excellent healthcare system, and ultimately, Canada, it's one of the most multicultural countries in the world. So I'd like to take a few minutes now and to, review Canada's main investor immigration programs. And some of you might be more familiar with the Quebec Investor Program, which was active until August of 2019. However, post-August 2019, the program has been closed and may or may not open next year, the year after. But it's always good to do a quick comparison of the both. So in terms of net worth requirement, the Startup Visa program to Canada, as Charles has mentioned, there's no formal net worth requirement. The applicant simply has to make a declaration that they have an income of $200,000 per year, 1 million in financial assets, or total assets of $5 million, which is very easy, simple declaration, no tax returns, nothing. Now, with the Quebec Investor Program, the applicant had to demonstrate that they had $2 million in net worth, basically in fixed assets and liquid assets, a full narrative document from the time they left high school, 10 to 15 years of tax returns, valuation reports and translations and all that. So this is where the Startup Visa program to Canada really shines, with not having to do all that stuff in terms of the net worth. So it's a simple declaration. With respect to management experience, there's no formal management experience required, but most of our applicants, they're all executives, business owners, executives in companies. So management experience is essentially tied to the individual being an accredited investor, so it's fine. With the Quebec Investor Program, we had to actually prove that the applicant was had demonstrated management experience. Even though if they've been running a company for 25 years, they had to show pay stubs that they were signing off on in HR letters and stuff. So this is very unique in the Startup Visa program, no management experience required. With respect to the investment, under the Quebec Investor Program, the individual had to invest $1.2 million to the government of Quebec for 5 years at zero interest. And ultimately, this was financed with a one-time financing fee of $360,000. With legal fees and government fees, this program ended up just approximately around 400,000 Canadian dollars, just in fees. The Startup Visa program to Canada, $350,000. It's not just fees, because a portion of the $350,000 goes towards 10% shareholding in the startup and additional funds for the startup as being a member part of the angel group. So a portion of those funds could be recoverable depending on how the startup performs. In terms of language requirements, Quebec Investor Program did not have any language requirements. However, with the Startup Visa program to Canada, there's a language requirement of CLB 5, which is equivalent to about an IELTS 5 in English or French. Dependents, all Canadian immigration programs include applicants' spouse, children, and all the children under the age of 22. What's unique is that once the application has been filed, the children's age is locked in as a dependent. So in terms of processing time, It varies right now, as it 14 to 18 months, 12 to 18 months for the starter visa program to Canada. With the Quebec Investor Program, it says here 24 to 36 months, but could even be 48 months or 60 months, so quite high. So basically, approximately in 2000 and early 2010, 10, 11, 12, the federal government actually shut down the federal investor program, and then the Quebec investor program was running for the past 5 to 7 years. So ultimately, the startup visa program to Canada, federal program, has replaced the Quebec investor program in Canada, and pretty much all of our clients globally who are high net worth, want a relatively passive, solution for Canada are opting for this program. Thank you everyone for attending this webinar. If anyone is interested in setting up a private and confidential assessment, please contact myself or anyone from the Greenridge Trustees Management Team. On behalf of Immigrant Investor Group, Inc., we look forward to being of service to you and your families in obtaining permanent residency in Canada. Thank you so much. Ghana,
Thank you very much, our able guest speakers, Mr. Ronnie Sharma and Charles Blair. We appreciate you so much for your insightful presentations. I'm sure our guests are not disappointed. So it's an opportunity that is presented for all our guests here present. There is no harm in ensuring a better life, not only for yourself or your own children. I know of families that are most interested in ensuring that irrespective of what happens, the children, their wards have a better life elsewhere. Therefore, this particular program, I believe, is for you and also your children. So this is an opportunity for you, and we believe that you are not going to miss out on it. So this is now time for questions and answers. I'm going to take your questions as you ask, and then I'll put it to the presenters, our guest speakers, to be able to answer, because I am not competent to answer your questions. So if you have any question, the Q&A box is open. So I have a question here.
Sure.
Can a foreigner register a business in Canada? What is the pathway to PR for a founder?
Sure.
That's number one. The second one is, hello, please, can we get the presentation document? So these are the two questions that I have on in the chat box. The first one is, can a foreigner register a business in Canada? What is the pathway to PR for a founder?
Okay. So thank you, Ghana, for that. So question number one, yes, a foreigner can register a business in Canada. That's no problem, and they are able to be a founder. And in fact, the Startup Visa program to Canada, our main stream is the Angel Stream Network, where we have founders in the pipeline which have been already vetted from the Angel Group and which have been in the system for about 6 to 12 months. So these are ready startups to launch with the group, and that's how we bring in the investors. However, the answer is yes. If there is a particular founder, they have an innovative idea that could meet the qualifications of the Startup Visa program to Canada, yes, they could qualify for that. With respect to the presentation, what we're doing is we'll be holding private consultations with the Greenridge management team, with Charles and myself. So please reach out to any of us to set up a private consultation. At that time, the presentation will be shared and other information as well. And then we can review your needs and objectives and to facilitate this application. No problem.
Okay, thank you very much, Ronnie. There's another question.
Yeah.
Apart from the 350 Canadian dollars,
yeah,
50,000 Canadian, what other professional fees apply?
Sure. Charles, you can answer that, please.
Unmute myself first. Yeah, so the idea behind this is that it's a comprehensive package, including all professional fees and the investment. So there are no additional professional fees. However, There may be fees related to, for example, the medical examination, police certificate. Those are things that would be disbursements that you would pay. And of course, the government processing fees, which for an average family would be in the 3,000 Canadian dollar range. Also, I should mention, actually, and this is a point that often comes up, is what about while the process is on, can I go to Canada? And the answer is, of course, yes, you can visit Canada. But also, if you're deemed to be an essential person as part of the business, you could apply for what's called an interim startup visa work permit to come to Canada early, not wait the full time for permanent resident status and start working on your business. The beauty of that is that your spouse qualifies for a concurrent open spousal work permit. So he or she could work virtually for any employer in Canada. There are some limitations if you're working in healthcare, childcare, things like that, in which case you would need a separate medical examination for that. But spouses essentially are eligible for an open work permit. And most attractively, children at the same time, before permanent residence is received, and if you do apply for this interim work permit, they're eligible for a concurrent study permit in Canada. So they could start and enter school early in Canada under your work permit. And one of the very attractive features of that is that these students under this kind of a study permit are not considered international students. So you don't have to pay the higher international tuition fees. Rather, the children will be considered residents, and up to university, education is free unless you opt for a private school. But otherwise, it's free and the normal, very high quality education system. And then university, post-secondary education is also as a resident, and so normal tuition fees, which are highly subsidized in Canada, would apply. So there could be significant savings there, even in terms of education costs for your children, if you participate in this program and get an interim work permit.
Okay, thank you very much, Charles. Okay, so on the issue of probably getting the presentation, well, like Ronit said, it's a conversation that we're going to have privately because this is somebody's work and we don't want to expose it to anybody. But if you are interested in having any private conversation with us, the Greenwich trustees, we are open to dialogue with you on how best to be able to address this. But we are not going to expose it to everybody until we have that private conversation as to how to handle it. So that will be our response to that. Now, somebody is saying, can an investor live in Canada while waiting for the PR? I don't know if Charles answered that.
Sure. Yeah, I'll answer that, Ghana. Thank you so much. Charles did answer that, and I'll just emphasize on that. Under the startup visa program to Canada, when we have the founder and then we have 3 or 4 investors, once the application has been submitted, if the investor is classified as essential and the startup really wants to launch in Canada earlier, then yes, the individual can obtain a work permit and come to Canada while the PR application is taking place. However, a key point is this is typically dependent on the founder's objective and initiative to come to Canada to launch their startup sooner rather than later. Because if the founder decides not to initiate the work permit application, then the essential workers cannot. So if one of the investors or applicants is keen on doing the work permit option, then we would put a request in with the angel group that this investor is wanting to do the work permit option. So if we could please find a startup that is going to be exercising the work permit option via the founder. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So the next question is, somebody wants to know, he's interested in investing in agriculture. Is it also part of the program?
Okay, yeah, I'll answer that, Ronit.
Sure.
Yeah, so yes, as I mentioned in terms of the sectors, our agribusiness sector in Canada is very robust. and actually very innovative. So if you're going to just be a farm manager, that doesn't really qualify under this program. You have to have some innovation component attached to farming generally. So an agribusiness type of angle there, but it's very doable. If
Yeah.
all you want to do is be a farmer in Canada, there may or may not, depending on your background, be another option for you. And so, you know, when we're approached, we will look at whether there's something else there as an option for you. But, you know, generally speaking, farmers coming to Canada is not the easiest and not the fastest, but it may be possible.
I appreciate that, Charles. Gunnar, I'll just I'll carry on with Charles's reply. You know, a lot of our clients who are doing this program, they're doing it for a multitude of reasons, to settle their children, for retirement, for future business expansion, for example, buying, you know, a farm or investing in real estate. So the beauty about the Startup Visa program to Canada is that this is just an avenue. It's just an avenue to get to Canada. Step one, attain your Canadian permanent residency, you know, in a very simple, straightforward manner. You become Canadian PRs, and then you can buy whatever you want without any conditions tied to your immigration. So that's what's really important. They can invest in real estate, buy a farm, or et cetera. So you know, again, 99%, all of our clients are just doing this to enter Canada as a step one. They understand the cost is $350,000. They get here, they settle the kids into school, they expand their business, they invest in real estate and such. So this is really, it's just an avenue to get to Canada as a step one, but they can do further investments as they wish once they enter Canada, no problem.
Right. So the next question is, somebody wants to know if you have some case study and what is the success rate from Nigeria?
Okay, so very good. So with respect to the case study, well, first off, let me comment on the Nigerian market first off. So Charles and I were actually in Lagos just before the pandemic started, November 2019, and we were there for 5 days, and I think we could have been there for 10 or 15 days as well, but just really busy. And in terms of the clientele that we're receiving from Nigeria, really top-notch, A1 quality caliber, you know, investors who are doing this and quite savvy as well. In terms of the success rate, the angel group we work with is the #1 angel group by far in terms of, you know, their own track record in submitting applications for the SUV program. But as of now, as we're speaking, it's 100% success rate with our angel group, and pretty much this program is quite robust the year of 2020 and also 2021. So a lot of approvals will be coming in. So as of now, our success with the Nigerian market is fantastic.
Ronit, may I just add something there?
Please, Charles,
Yeah, so one of the reasons that we've been very careful about who we work with, and it, you know, is #1 to ensure the success rate, but also I don't want you to get the impression that this is just very easy and 100% success comes easily. It does not. The Startup Visa program is subject to the government reviewing what the angel investor has done and what their due diligence was, and whether the business plan development was in accordance with normal industry standards for startups, those kinds of things. So we've chosen our partners very carefully, and there are some individuals in the market who do things quite a bit differently. And so the success rates under the program generally, I can't say is 100%, because there are people who are making what are essentially not well-founded applications that don't pass the genuineness test. We're very serious about making sure this is genuine, that this business is genuine, that you are genuinely involved in the training, and the due diligence is appropriate. and that is good for you, but also, of course, for the angel group that we work with and for our own reputations, obviously. So
Absolutely. No,
be very careful about that.
yeah, I really appreciate that, Charles. And Ghana, just further to Charles's comment, is that absolutely there's the incubator stream predominantly under this stream. Actually, there's a lot of fake business plans and fake startup pitches going on with no capital allocated. And our program is quite opposite from that, like 180 degrees opposite, where these are real startups. And on day one, the founder is going to have about $300,000 to $350,000 of early stage capital to launch their company. So we're looking at real startups that are launching, and these are the companies that the Canadian government wants to see and to approve, and that's why we are kind of ahead of the curve on that.
Great. Okay, there's another question from Kenny Chukuma. He's asking whether all members of the family are expected to spend 4 to 5 months in Canada every year, or just the main applicant?
Yeah, so I'll just start that, and if Charles wants to comment further. So yes, the answer is yes. Once everybody receives a Canadian permanent residency card, everybody is required to stay minimum of 4.5 months in Canada to maintain their PR card. Typically, this is what we see in our files. Husband or one of the spouses shifts the family, one of the spouses is shuttling back and forth between Nigeria and Canada. If one of the spouses is not able to maintain their permanent residency status in the initial 5 years, they cannot do that. The spouse who maintains their status can always sponsor that spouse after the 5-year period under spousal sponsorship. So that is the backup plan on that. Charles, please.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just to be clear about that 4.5 months a year, that's kind of an average idea. The actual requirement is 730 days or 2 years within the previous 5-year period. So someone could, immigrate to Canada and not actually settle for 3 years, but the last 2 years, they would have to be in Canada full time to meet the 5-year requirement, or the 2-year requirement in 5 years. So it's not that every year you have to spend that minimum amount of time. It's just that overall, within that 5 years, you would have to meet the 2 years. And that applies, as Rona said, to each individual. Children are essentially included with parents. And just to say, we have a lot of clients who run into, have questions about this kind of thing, particularly the main applicant who may have a business in both countries back and forth and is having trouble accumulating the time. There are strategies that are legal, appropriate, not only the sponsorship, as Ronit mentioned, but there are other ways to get credit for time while outside of Canada. So that's something that we would have a separate discussion on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. So the next question, say how long on the average does the whole process take? Is it limited to some particular low density areas like Winnipeg?
Sure. So basically the starter visa program to Canada, it's a federal program. So the only province which is excluded is Quebec. But if you want to move to Winnipeg, no problem. You can move to Winnipeg, Toronto, Calgary, Vancouver. So destination is not an issue. Again, as per the government website right now, if you're just starting your application, it says approximately 12 to 18 months. If your application is already in queue, it says 30 months. The rationale for that is because they're clearing up the queue and their intention is to keep the processing time at 12 to 18 months. So, however, to meet client expectations, we are telling clients even on the higher side, sometimes like 18 to 24 months from start to finish, for the overall program. And it could go faster as well. It all depends on government timelines and stuff like that. But as of now, as per the government website, 12 to 18 months is the processing time from start to finish. Yeah.
Right. So there's another question. Does it include social enterprise startup that is not for profit?
Sure. Basically, the startup, as Charles had mentioned, there's different industries that the startup could be in. For example, it could be in health tech or fintech or travel tech. So Absolutely. If there is a startup that has been qualified by the Angel Group as a social enterprise and it qualifies for innovation aspect, then yes, that would qualify for sure. It all depends on if it passes the Angel Group's test for that. Yeah. Charles, do you want to?
Yeah, so yeah, and that's the point which Ronak made, is that the angel investors are putting their money into this startup, and so they're doing so in anticipation of getting their money out and a profit. So a social enterprise is possible, but I think the hurdle is to convince an angel that putting their own money into this is going to be a good investment for them as well. And so I think that, that's probably a challenge. And I think, it goes back to Ronit's original comment that this is, currently the best, fastest, and most direct pathway to permanent resident status in Canada, with potential interim, options to get here even sooner. And once you're here, if you wanted to pursue something like that, I think that makes a lot of sense, as opposed to using that as your basis for.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next question is 350,000 is quite affordable, but then could be a huge barrier as well. If there was a way around this through financing and some guarantee to be successful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so thank you for that question, Ghana. So the $350,000 package, basically, no, you cannot finance it. There's no financing option. However, if you do your own financing, if you have some real estate, you can take a loan or something against it. But really, the main reason why our clients love this program, because the Quebec Investor Program, $400,000 was just fees, and they were paying for that fees and going through that process, 3, 4, 5 year wait time. But our program, it's $350,000, which includes 10% shareholding in the capital of the startup, plus other funds to invest in other startups as well. So really, most of our clients are doing this knowing that, okay, well, under the Quebec Investor Program, I was willing to forego about $400,000. This is $350,000, which is okay. And if the startup does great, then they might be able to recover some of those funds back.
Okay. So I think this question has been answered, but I don't know if you can throw more light. Can the investor and his family stay in Canada without leaving for their home country?
Yeah, I can answer that, Ronan.
Yeah, please.
Yeah,
I think this has been addressed.
Yes. The answer is yes, actually, basically.
Okay, so the last question I have here, if all I want this to participate in the funding of the startup, can I pool funds with the main investor nominated by your organization? If that is yes, how much will I be exposed to pay apart from the 75K, 1,000K? I mean, what is your retainership fee for the service?
So I'll answer that. So our mainstream program is with the Angel Stream program. It's a $350,000 option, where our Angel Group has vetted these startups, which have been in pipeline for the last, 6 to 12 months. So we match make the investor with the startup. There's 2 or 3 other investors as well. So our package is 350. So a portion of the funds go for their 10% capital, and it's like a group setting, and they participate in the incubation training program, for about 2 to 3 months. Like, so that's our standard package we have. Our founders and angel groups, they want 2 or 3 or 4 investors pre-group, because that's the funding they need to launch. They're not just going to go with one investor for this, because they're trying to achieve about $300,000 to $350,000, even sometimes north of $400,000 in early stage capital funding. So yeah, our package is pretty exclusive to 3 or 4 investors being pooled with the actual founder as well. Yeah.
Okay, I think the last question here is, what is the value of the 10% equity ownership of the required 350,000 Canadian dollars?
Great. So that's a very, very good question, Ghana. And ultimately, if the startup becomes a unicorn, then hits IPO, that's fantastic. However, in the startup space, not all startups do great, you know, and some startups do good and some startups do not so great. And that's why under our structure, there's an allocation of funds for the investor to invest in other startups as well, which is not tied to the Canadian PR. So it's really all dependent on the success of the startup. And it just goes back again to our genuine approach working with our angel group. So these startups, which are passed by the angel group, they go through in-depth due diligence on their startup, their potential to launch in Canada as well. So it really all depends, Ghana. That's the answer. So if on this one, yeah.
Okay, I think we are done. In the absence of any further questions, I would like us to understand how much you know. I mean, you are able to appreciate and understand the presentations that I've made and several clarifications that were made during the question and answer session. Therefore, as admin, to just pop off, throw up a poll, you can vote so that we know very well how much of these presentations you are able to understand. So there are two questions on the poll. You can click and vote so that this will actually help us to know whether you actually understood the presentations and some of the clarifications that were made during the question and answer. So this is time for you to vote. You have only a single choice. You can only vote once. So you vote. Okay, admin, are we done? So, on this note, I would like to thank our guest speakers, Ronit and Charles. Also like to appreciate our participants who took time to join us in this webinar. We have no doubt that the issues have been adequately addressed, and you now have a better perspective of the SUV program. So on behalf of the two partners, Greenwich Trustees and IIG, I want to thank you once again for joining us. I want to thank NBCCI, thank everybody that has been here, our support staff, and I pray that, and I wish that very soon we'll have the opportunity to have a one-on-one engagement with some of our participants. Please, the numbers are displayed. You can reach us on you can call any of these numbers and we can set up a private discussion with you. We don't want to expose so much, but once you meet us and we have that discussion, I'm sure you will understand more, and some of the doubts that you have will also be cleared. Let me assure us also that our partners are always available to link up on every conversation, on every call with you, and to lead you through all doubts and to clear every ambiguity that you have concerning this program. So on behalf of myself and all the parties here, the other participants, the guest speakers, NBCCI, I want to wish you a lovely evening and goodbye for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.